are reports that Democratic lobbyist Tony Podesta worked on behalf of a Ukrainian interest without registering under the Foreign Agent Registration Act. Mueller indicted Trump's former campaign manager Paul Manafort over very similar accusations. So are Manafort and Podesta being treated the same by Mueller's team? Not according to Tucker Carlson's reporting last night.
We can report exclusively, based on two separate sources we spoke to today, that Tony Podesta has been offered immunity by Robert Mueller to testify against Paul Manafort. In other words, for a near-identical crime, Bill and Hillary's friend could skate and emerge completely unscathed, while Paul Manafort may rot in jail.
That doesn't seem very fair. Here to discuss is former FBI spokesperson John Iannarelli, retired FBI Special Agent Bobby Chacon, and Democratic strategist Scott Bolden, who's joining me here in the studio, I should say. Bobby, I want to ask you, you being involved and engaged in the FBI, when do you use immunity? And, why is it that we continue to see, if the reporting is true, and I have every reason to believe Tucker Carlson, in the Hillary Clinton probe, they gave out 5 sets of immunity and got nothing for it. And now here we're hearing reports that Tony Podesta is getting immunity. When do you use it? When's it appropriate?
Well, there's a couple of reasons. Really, the first and foremost one, as you would think it might be, is if the person you're dealing with has committed a crime. If they haven't committed a crime, or you don't think they've committed a crime, they have nothing to be immune from. So clearly, Podesta is thought of by the Mueller team to have engaged in some kind of conduct that he needs immunity from. That's the first and foremost thing. The second thing is you feel that he has some information that he could give you on some of the people that are targets from in your investigation, which means only that he must have dealt with them either in a criminal conspiracy or in criminal matters that relate to Mueller's investigation. So there's two things. They must think that Podesta did something illegal, and that illegal activity or some activity that he engaged in was connected to the probe going on, because that's how criminal conspiracies work. Guys get together to commit crimes. So Podesta, really, this immunity deal to me puts Podesta right in the middle of this thing.
Scott, how do you react to this when we see this report and suddenly they're handing out immunity to yet another Democrat?
Well, this isn't a partisan issue. I'm a former prosecutor. I'm a white-collar criminal defense lawyer, so my colleague on your program is absolutely right. But every case is different. Here's the deal. Manafort certainly is charged with more crimes, substantially more than Podesta. And if Podesta was part of a deal or some type of conspiracy, then he has information that they need to prosecute Manafort or others. 2, they believe he's committed a crime. He was a subject or a target. And 3, Manafort is fighting these charges. Manafort isn't rolling over and trying to cooperate and make America better and tell what's going on with Russia and Trump and others. He's fighting these charges. That's why he's in jail, and that's why Podesta is getting immunity.
John, your background with the FBI, you saw what happened in the Hillary Clinton probe, but then, 5 sets of immunity, and the FBI admitted we got nothing for that in exchange. Have you ever seen that? Have the FBI ever had any other case where they handed out 5 sets of immunity, got nothing for it, and now here they are handing out immunity again?
Well, they're getting his testimony in the prosecution of Manafort. That's something that's super valuable for any prosecutor.
Yeah, but John, you had a long career at the FBI. How did you see this?
To hand out so many immunities is unusual, and to get nothing for it. I think the lesson we're seeing here is if you're going to commit a crime, it pays to have a relative who's in high political office so that you can be the one offered immunity. But let's not forget, the reality is that maybe he knows something that the other people being charged don't know. Maybe he can offer more information. They're obviously going to look for getting the biggest bang for their buck.
Yeah, and I have a hard time believing that that going after Mr. Manafort is the biggest fish. I mean, he was with the Trump campaign for 3 or 4 months, something like that. But we'll see. I mean, Mueller's been given a lot of latitude, but they're trying to equate what happened in Russia with Mr. Putin and this, but there's been no evidence of any collusion. I want to go and talk actually about some of the something else, something that was in a little bit more of the fallout from the Helsinki summit. Former intelligence chiefs are now politicizing their role in going after Trump. And here's what a former acting CIA director said.
At what point will there be critical mass of objection to some of the lunacy that's going on here under this president. To state it baldly, the United States was attacked and the president sided with the enemy.
And ousted FBI Director James Comey had to throw in his 2 cents, tweeting, quote, "All who believe in this country's values must vote for Democrats this fall. Policy differences don't matter right now. History has its eyes on us." Gentlemen, is this an appropriate thing for the former intel chiefs to jump in here and do this? And I actually want to start with Scott, because I think these things actually play into Donald Trump's hands.
Well, I don't think they play in the hand, but what is your issue with what they've said, your GOP colleagues have said, what Democrats have said, and what we watched? We watched a president that did not denounce Russia. 13 of his government agents were just indicted by Mueller. We have 17
Under the
agencies.
Trump administration, yes.
Okay, and 17 agencies have said that they attack our election system, and our president, GOP president, denies it. And then he gets on a consequential world stage and does nothing about it.
It's too strong to say he denies it. He said he misspoke. You know that Donald Trump does not like to go out and correct
the world stage. He misspoke.
And he went back out there, and he doesn't like to do that.
No, he doesn't. But I got to tell you, saying misspoke when you're under that summit should never have taken place. With these indictments and with those 17
agencies, what I love about the Democrats,
it never should have taken place.
Don't talk to anybody. John, I got to bring in John here.
Okay.
John, you've got a lot of experience as an FBI agent. Is it the right, proper place for these intel chiefs to be able to go out right after and then go start to say and advocate for the Democrats? How does that play?
Hey, I'll tell you, I am just happy that Comey's using his personal phone and not a government phone if he's tweeting. But they shouldn't be doing this. The reality is that they understand from those positions a lot of moving parts are going on behind the scenes. Nobody actually knows once you're out of position what the president is doing or his administration. So they actually could be undermining other factors that are taking place. And I will tell you, whether you like Putin, don't like Putin, like Trump, don't like Trump, it never hurts to speak to the other side, because every time you do, you get a little more intelligence.
Let me go to Bobby here. Bobby, your experience, an FBI director, former intel chiefs that are out there making these comments, how does that strike you?
It's irresponsible, and it actually damages the republic. I would be in favor of certain senior-level policy officials being barred from doing this kind of political rhetoric. I mean, we have the Hatch Act, which is enforceable against government employees. But once you leave the government, there should be some enforceable mechanism that these guys cannot go out, these senior policy guys who had access to all this information, and then go on these tweet storms. And pretty much some of them lost their mind in their anger and rhetoric against the current president. And I think that you can't separate that rhetoric from some of the things that they knew and learned with their security clearances in their prior jobs. So I think there has to be some kind of cooling off period where these guys have to keep their mouths shut, go home, and sit on their hands and watch the government function. Because right now, they're interfering with the function of our government as former senior policy executives.
So they lose their First Amendment, right? That's really what he's saying. Here's the bottom line.
No, the Hatch Act is perfectly enforceable under the First Amendment.
Former
I was barred from political
true.
speech for 27. The Hatch Act was enforceable against me for 27 years. The First Amendment doesn't get enforceable when you're employed or not employed. The First Amendment of the Constitution does not spell out that it can only be enforceable when you're employed or not employed. There are certain conditions to government employment that can be enforced.
Let me give Scott a second
here. Bottom line, though.
Yes.
Donald Trump drives every narrative in this presidency, right? You want to block people from observing and speaking on what they saw that both sides were highly critical of, right? How about
No, I didn't. No, wait a sec. I didn't suggest that they block it. What I'm saying is it plays into Donald Trump's hands, because what he says is, I didn't get a fair shake. These people were conspiring against me. And then you have James Comey months after saying he's got a higher loyalty, saying, don't worry about the policy. Policies don't matter in this country.
It doesn't anymore.
Just vote for Democrats, which is in his self-interest because he doesn't want to probe of himself.
Well, wait a minute now. The GOP is in control, and the GOP left him. He didn't leave the GOP. He's a lifelong Republican. How can you say that?
He registered as an independent. But what I'm saying is, when he goes out and says, vote for Democrats no matter what is his best interest? If the Democrats take over the House, then these probes that Devin Nunes and Trey Gowdy and John Ratcliffe and everybody do, that goes away. And I hope America sees through what he's trying to do.
How come it hasn't gone away with GOP control then? You all control everything. So why hasn't it gone away then? Why won't DOJ turn over documents to the GOP House and Senate? That's a whole nother.
You and I will agree on that. You and I will agree on that. Like, John, I want to give you the last word here. We've got just like 10 seconds. What does the average FBI agent out there, the rank and file, what do they think when they see a person like James Comey go out and say, vote for Democrats?
Hey, can we just get back to being agents and doing our jobs without all the political discussion? That's what the rank and file agents are thinking. We don't want our directors to be political. We want to be able to have the public's trust and do the job that they are doing right now.
Yeah, and you're right. My grandfather was a career FBI agent. I can't.